bfishy81 asks, determining new rank/order to maximize sales. I have a dataset from a website that lists items in category order, using the product views, click-through rate, sales, and sales per views. I need to reorder the category order that will maximize product views. I have no idea if there's a function or formula I can use to do this. Any help would be greatly appreciated. So I copied bfishy81's dataset into Excel and it looks like this. So we have a list containing products and then we have a category order. And now our job is to create this new category order that is based on the product views. And as you can already see in the first two rows, you can see that the current number 2 actually has more product views than the current number 1. So we should reorder this, being that the 2 received the new 1. Now, there are a couple of functions within Excel that allow you to do things like this, and they are all called rank function. Now, the default function is called rank, but this function is actually no longer supported. So they added a new function called rank.eq, which does exactly the same. And so how it works is that you provide a number to the rank.eq function, such as the current number of product views, and then we supply to it a range of numbers. And then the rank function will contain the position of our current number within this range. So let me select all of our product views numbers. Now there's a third optional argument where we can define the order. So should we rank descendingly or ascendingly? The default behavior is descendingly, and that's also what we're looking to do. So in this case, we can simply ignore that argument. So I close the parentheses and press enter, and you can see we indeed get do. Now, if we fixate our reference here containing the range, so we use the shortcut F4 to put $signs in front of the letter and the number, we can now simply pull this through and get a result for every single unit. Now, there's still a slight problem in the sense that sometimes the rank is duplicated. For example, you can see we have 2 products ranked 9 because they have the same amount of views. However, you can see we have 9 twice, but 10 is not present, so we immediately jump to 11. So that's the default behavior of how a rank.eq or a rank function operates. And that's not what we're looking for, because if you can see at the original category order, there were actually no duplicates. So it just goes from 1 all the way to 55. And that's also what we would like to achieve. Now there's another function called rankavg, and this handles duplicates a bit differently. So whenever there's a duplicate, it will actually supply the average. So you can see, instead of just putting 9, it gives us 9.5. Well, that's still not really what we're looking for. So in this case, what we're trying to do is actually use the rankeq function like we did before, and now handle those duplicates. Now, how we will be doing this is by using an expanding range within a COUNTIF function. And so to demonstrate how it works, I will put the result of this in the next column. So I will write $COUNTIF, and now we have to supply a range. How the COUNTIF function works is that we supply a range and then we give a criteria, and then it will count the number of instances that apply to that criteria. In this case, what we are looking to count is a number of duplicate product views that have come before the current row. So how we would do this is by supplying a range. So it goes from cell C2, so the first cell of product views, all the way to cell C2. Well, that's a bit strange to write it this way, but how we will be doing this is we will fixate the first reference, so the first C2, we will fixate this with an F4. So when we pull this through, it actually remains at C2, but if we continue to pull it through, the second reference will actually update. And so it will always contain the product views up until this row, and then everything that came before it. And so the criteria we are going to check, well, that's the current product views. Okay. So I close the parentheses, I press enter, and we get a 1. Now let me pull this through and see the effect. So what you can see here, wherever we had duplicates, for example, with the 9, you can see the first 9 just gets a 1, whereas the second 9 gets a 2 next to it. If you scroll down, we can see here where there's 7 views, you can see there are actually up to 4 duplicates. Okay, so now we will add these 2 parts together. Now all we have to do is we have to subtract 1, as we do not wish to count the current row. So I will simply update this, so -1 like that. And now I pull this through. Now every row that does not have duplicates will simply have 0, and then whenever we have duplicates, the first duplicate will also be 0, so like this row with 9, but then every duplicate that comes after this will have an increment at this column. So now we can simply add these two columns together, just like this. So I do the first column plus the second column, I pull this through, and now you will see that we actually go from 1 all the way to 55 without skipping a single value. So let's put this all together into the original new category order column. So let's delete these columns. And so here we have the rank EQ function where we are given the rank of the current number, but we have duplicates. So just like before, how to counteract this is using a COUNTIF function with an expanding reference, meaning for the first cell, we use a range in the same cell. So we go from C2 to C2. So it's a range that references just one cell, but this is still important because we fixate the first cell reference, and that way we have an expanding cell reference that each time takes all the rows that came before it. And so we check if the current row appeared multiple times in the rows before it. Now we need to subtract 1 from this because we will be counting 1 if it appears once, but that's a default behavior. So then we don't want anything to change. So that's why we have to subtract 1. So I press enter, and now we pull this through. And as you can see earlier, we had 2 9s here, and now it has become a 9 and a 10. If we scroll down, we can also see we have 45 and 55. So every number appears once. And so just to show what the references look like, I'll pick this one here, so number 10. And so what you can see is that this range here, the first argument to the COUNTIF function that contains the expanding reference, now it goes from C2 all the way to C10, right? And if I take another one, you will once again see it goes from C2 up until the current row being C14. So in this case, you can see we can use this expanding reference to check how many times a certain value appeared before. And so it's really useful to make this ranking order without duplicates.